Well, welcome back to the Nightly Painting Studio. My name's Corbin, and I'm going to be talking today about how I'm going to do some basing. And I'm going to cover a couple different techniques, a couple different ways, and things you could do to make some interesting bases. But I figured while I was working on this Fomoroid crusher for Warcry, he has a really big base. It's going to be really nice to really work on some cool basing techniques with this guy. So, a couple things about basing right off the bat. Depending on how comfortable you are in your hobby journey with more advanced techniques, Games Workshop makes an incredible line of texture paints, several of which I have here. They make some like Martian Iron Earth, there's Armageddon Dunes, Sterling Mud, all sorts of really cool texture paints from Games Workshop. Today I'm probably going to be working with this Astrogranite. I really like the texture of this particular paint. I think this is an older pot, but it's still working well for me. So, yeah, so as we get into the different techniques, I've got some just kind of stone, real small gravel. You can get it out of your driveway or off the road or something like that. Really easy to find. Just scoop yourself up a whole tub of it. You'll use a lot. Also, I got this a long time ago, as you can tell by some of the signage on it, but this is modeling sand from Games Workshop. There are various brands that make this. I've just had this for a while and haven't run out yet. So it's got a lot of different textures to it, a lot of different size of like stone and sand. But I use that for various things as well. Later on in the project, we'll have some, I think this is Gale Force 9, I think. Anyway, it's flocking. It's just kind of a nice dead grass looking flock. It's going to be perfect for our setting for this guy. Okay, I also have some shale here, and then I have some bark, cork bark pieces. If you go and you buy a bag of the big chips of these from like your local hardware store, and you just throw them in the oven for like 10 minutes. Wash them, throw them in the oven. That gets rid of all the bacteria, fungus, things growing in them, all that sort of stuff. Makes them a little more clean, sanitary to use on your miniatures. So it just ensures you don't get anything growing on your bases that you don't want growing on your bases. So also I have some just PVA glue, Elmers, and then I've got some different types of super glue. Really, this is all you're going to need for the time being. We're going to get started on this guy. There's a reason I have the model here with me. There are a couple different places on this base. Now, this base is pretty cool. It already comes with this plastic texture piece. So we're going to blend that right into the rest of our base here, but there's a couple different places where this kind of comes down, and there aren't a ton of places where this model touches that aren't on the, actually there are no places where this model touches that aren't on this, but we're going to try to blend this in as much as we can, like I said. So that will probably include taking some of our basing here and pulling it up onto this plastic piece. So I want to make sure I have the model available to make sure I don't put any rocks or sand where he's going to be touching the base itself. This is a good tip or trick to keep in mind whenever you're doing bases for any of your models. If you want them to sit flat like they are supposed to, you're going to want to make sure you have the model on hand or already glued to the base. That also helps. But I'm going to keep mine apart for the simple sake of I want to airbrush him differently than I want to airbrush the base. So let's go ahead and get started. So what we're going to be going for today is a base somewhat like this one that I did for the leader of my Untamed Beasts for Warcry. And you can really see here that there's just a lot of detail in the space. This is Astrogranite with some stone and some flocking on the edge of it. I've got a little piece of shale in there underneath, right in there. And then there's this, textured base piece that he comes standing on that's plastic. So this is kind of the look we're going to be aiming for. I kind of did two different looks with my two Warcry warbands. This guy is from the Iron Golem, and I used all of just the Games Workshop texture sand or whatever for him, as well as a piece of bark and some stone and that sort of stuff. So I liked the look of this better once I got done with it. So I'm probably going to be shooting for that type of look to this. It's a little more textured the way and to scale with the miniature. I like that better. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do is we're going to take our Astrogranite. It's probably the first thing that we're going to do. We're going to make sure we got what looks like enough in there. I think it'll be enough. If not, we'll fill in with other things. You're going to want some sort of tool to get that out. The GW texture tool works really well, or you can just pick up a pack of these on Amazon, just little sculpting tools. You're going to want to find some suitable sized rocks just to scatter around. The little ones don't matter so much, but your big, noticeable rock pieces you're going to want to find. If you want to use any shale or bark, you're going to want to pick that out ahead of time as well, because once we get this stuff on there, we're going to have a little bit of a limited time to work with it. So if you were just taking sand like this and gluing it on, you could either use super glue or PVA glue, whichever you're more comfortable with or have laying around. Sometimes I don't like to use that much super glue just because that's a lot of glue. It is a lot of glue that you go through, especially for a base this size if you're covering the whole thing in super glue. So since we're using the Games Workshop texture paint though, we're actually not going to need to do that on this particular base. So let's go ahead and get right to it. So as you put this stuff on, you're just going to want to kind of run it right up next to and kind of on the plastic detail that's already there. This really helps to kind of set that piece of plastic into its new reality here. This texture paint is great. It's so easy to use. So like I was saying earlier, I really like this Astrogranite. I can't remember what the new kind is called. Real quick here, I want to talk about this for a second. This section right here, I've kind of got a little bit on the edge. I'm just going to take my finger and run it along the edge there and make a nice defining edge to where that texture paint is. You don't have to do that. That's just the way I do it because I'm a perfectionist. So right here, this edge right here, you can see that this kind of is broken off a little bit here. We're going to come in, put some right on the edge there. Once again, sorry, hit the camera there. I'm just going to try to tie this piece of plastic into the rest of the base, and you can kind of be messy with it here because you're going to come back through with your finger, wipe that edge clean. Alright, so I'm going to do this over the whole base, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so I'm back. I have put the Astrogranite over the whole base. Did end up having enough. Yay! So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to try to see like these little cracks right in here where there's like some stonework kind of chipping and stuff. I'm going to go in and I'm actually going to put a little bit of that in some of those spots to really tie this in. But I do want to make sure that I'm not putting anything on where he is going to be. So I can put some kind of in that little spot where there's a couple stones there. And I can kind of maybe trail it back up in there. Okay, I've got a good idea of where I want it. So what we're going to do is bring kind of a little bit right up onto here. Really kind of pull that in. So for this stage, if you have an old brush, actually works really well for this stuff. So you can kind of see where I'm putting it there. You don't have to do this, like there's no need to do this, but I think it's actually going to help tie everything in together. A little bit right in there. Yeah, I think I'm good with that. So the next thing that we're going to do, it's a valuable tip now that we're back. Take something, stick the base on it. It's a lot easier to work with that way. So while this stuff is still wet, this is kind of a crucial moment. We're going to take some stone. Place it in our Astrogranite. I have several that I've kind of picked out in here. I try to choose ones that have like kind of flat bottom to them. So now I'm actually going to go in, so since I have kind of a bigger stone there, I'll put a smaller stone right here. And then I'm going to get progressively smaller. To make it look like something is just kind of crumbled there. We're going to grab our other stone. So I always like to see, like, okay, where do I want to place this that it's going to make the most sense? It's going to look a little random to it. I don't want to just place it right in the center of that. I want to be like a little off. So I'm actually going to go closer to that there. A little stone there. Stone. Flying somewhere. Little tweezers are really nice to have. So now what I'm doing is I'm just going to start placing tiny stones around. So what I actually want to do here is kind of take some of these real rocks, right, and kind of blend it into our fake ones here. Really dig through it until you find the right ones. And you're also going to want to make sure you really sink those in. For this one in particular, though, I want to make sure I have quite a few rocks. So this one's kind of flat. Looks a lot like some of our other stone. So I'm actually going to see if I can't find a nice place for it, like right there. Add a nice little happy stone right there. So you can see that this has actually already started to dry on me. which is okay. If this rock doesn't stick in here, you can always come back and glue it later. That's not a big deal. So I think I'm good for now. Might just find one more teeny tiny rock. Just put it right there. Okay, cool. So you can see got some nice variation to our stonework there. And then we're just going to make sure that this guy sits where he needs to. He does. You're golden. Great. So, this is the way that I do my bases for my untamed beasts. I really like that, and so since this guy's going in Warcry, I wanted to show you guys how I was doing this. I hope that this has kind of showed some of the potential that you have for basing. I was trying to find earlier some extra little bits from one of the Iron Golem sprues, but I cannot for the life of me find those. So if I find them, I may go back and add in like maybe a head or maybe one of the bolus things just to break up the base a little bit. But for now, this is great. I love this. I think it's going to turn out really well, especially when it's painted. So the last thing that I'll do normally is I'll just run my hand around just to make sure that everything is kind of within that base edge. And then I think we're good. So thanks for watching this video. If you liked the content, if you found it helpful, post a comment down below. I'd love to hear what you think I could do better, what you thought I did well, ideas for new videos, things you want to see. But I hope this really helps you create your own basing, whether it's for Warcry, for other Warhammer games, whether it's 40k, AOS. This is really easy to replicate. This is a big base, so it took a little longer, but it's a really great, simple way to make a base look really good. And like I said, we would add the flocking on later. You could add on whatever flocking you wanted after the base is painted. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and if you want more, like my channel, subscribe to it, like this video, and hope to see you back again soon. So if you liked this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Hope this was helpful. You can also sign up for my Patreon. That's Nightly Painting Studio over at patreon.com. There have all my tutorials on that page so far, and that list is continuously growing. I'm supporting my local game store via that Patreon during this really hard season for them. It's just my way of giving back to a game store that has been really good to me. So thanks for your support, and hope to see you again in our next video.